Now we will move on to the second session. Dr. Norihito Kanamori will be the chairperson of this session. Dr. Kanamori, please come up to the stage.
So thank you very much for the introduction. Welcome to session 2 of the JIRCAS International Symposium. I'm Norihito Kanamori, the leader of the Information Hub project of JIRCAS. This session will focus on research and application to enhance sustainability and productivity of artisanal fisheries and aquaculture. We have 3 distinguished speakers who will explain science, technology, and innovation for international collaboration to promote both sustainability and productivity of the sector. Now let me introduce our first speaker, Dr. Tatsuya YURIMOTO, Senior Researcher of Fisheries Division in JIRCAS. His presentation title is Development of Sustainable Bivalve Aquaculture Technology Adapted to Tropical Monsoon Region. Dr. YURIMOTO, the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. My name is Tatsuya YURIMOTO from the Fisheries Division of JIRCAS. Today, I would like to introduce a study on blood cuckoo aquaculture in Malaysia. So this picture is the boiled blood cuckoo. This is the main topic animal today. JIRCAS is collaborating with the National Fisheries Research Institute under the Department of Fisheries, Malaysia government, and the headquarters of the FRI is located on the Penang Island. Our research laboratory is also here, and the blood cuckoo aquaculture research main site is located on the Selangor coast, near from Kuala Lumpur, this tarmac. First, I would like to explain this cuckoo's morphology and distribution. This is a kind of eggshell. The scientific name is Tejirarca granosa. This species is characterized by the presence of about 18 leaves and many nodules on the surface of the cell. The distribution is mainly in South Asian countries, but also in China, Australia, and Western Japan. Their habitat is mainly around mudflats area, and it is a popular aquaculture species in Southeast Asian countries. In case of Malaysia, the west coast of the peninsula is the main fishing ground. This is a quiet environment. The coastal area are covered with mangrove forest and huge mudflat spread on the coastline. About 15 years ago, the Malaysian government set the aquaculture farms from sowing aquaculture. The fishermen farm the cuckoo in these plots, especially the red marked plots in the map figure show the high production area near from the rivers. The graph shows the average air temperature and rainfall amount around Selangor. The temperature is stable through the year. However, there is a rainy season from October to December. From previous research, the blood cuckoo is this area mainly becomes sexually mature and spawns during the rainy season. According to the Keppen climate classification, Malaysia is classified as tropical rainforest climate area. However, monsoon is an important factor for the blood cuckoo life cycle in this region. Northeast wind blows during the rainy season, and the southeast wind blows during the dry season. Especially during the northeast winds, moisture air reaches the west coast, and much rain falls, and rainwater flows into the coast through the rivers. And then the coastal areas become brackish over a wide area due to a decrease in salinity. And during the wet season, plankton blooms occur, and blood cuckoos developed their gonad, and their main spawning season occurs in this region. In case of Selangor coast, the early spots after the planktonic stage settled on the bottom, and local fishermen collected them with the wire collecting basket around February and March. The spots are sold into aquaculture plots where fishermen cultivated for 1 year or 1.5 years and harvested when they are grown to 2.5 centimeter over. And then these are shipped to food processing company or fish markets. I would like to explain the process of cuckoo aquaculture in more detail. The natural spots mainly occur around the tidal flood areas. If the spot is left in natural condition, the cuckoo cannot grow well because the density is too high and the water quality is unstable, such as low salinity or high turbidity. Fishermen scrape up them and sow the spots in their plots and the cuckoo to grow well and maintain their suitable condition. Fishermen also periodically resow the cuckoo to keep them for a better bottom condition in their plot depending on the cell size. Sorry. So it means blood cuckoo farmers a very important role in the coastal ecosystem, I think, in the region. So this graph shows the blood cuckoo production on the west coast of Peninsular Malaysia. Many cuckoo farms are set along the coast of Selangor, Perak, and Penang province. However, these are declining in recent years. One of the factors is the problem of occasionally occurring mass mortality events in the blood cuckoo. This problem occurred in the Selangor around the time that I started blood cuckoo culture research in Malaysia. I remember the final mortality rate was 60% over. So at that time, the results showed that epithelium had degenerated in the digestive gland and the digestive duct was completely empty. This means the environmental factor is relating with the mass mortality event. So we observed this event occurring time, so February, so rain is very heavy rain occurred at that time. So Shimoda et al., he is a farmer JIRCAS researcher, so focused on the black water flowing from the rivers to the fishing ground. This water contains components from peat swamp forest. So actually in the one estuary, the monitoring survey observed that the pH was low value, lower than the 5, and the water contained high concentration of nitrate plus nitrate and ammonia in the estuary area. It is known that such black water is easier to flow into rivers with rainwater as land area developments. So these results indicate that some cuckoos aquaculture plots are easily affected the river water, such like water quality. In addition, recent studies have reported the coastal topography is changing. This is a color-coded map of the coastline from 1984 topographic map and 2013 satellite image. Red color areas indicate erosion, and yellow color areas indicate the tide flood accumulation. When contrast with the blood cuckoo fishing plot map, the yellow area with developed tidal floods and suitable for the blood cuckoo farming aquaculture. Although the Malaysian government has set up zone area for the blood cuckoos about 15 years ago, so these plot areas bottom condition already drastically changed, I guess. Dr. Saito, he is also a farmer JIRCAS researcher, investigated the relationship between the shell shape, whole weight, and growth condition of the blood cuckoo. And they developed estimation formulas for physiological condition. We can evaluate growth condition without killing the cuckoo by these formulas. In addition, the instruments used for the assessment are simple tools such as caliper and scale. And the index can be estimated by the local fisherman self. This index can be used also to assess aquaculture plot condition. Therefore, JIRCAS and FRI held a study meeting with local fishermen and established a framework for future collaboration. We are working on reset the aquaculture plots using the estimation method. This is the last slide. The local newspaper reported on this matter. So according to this, the DOF, Department of Fisheries, will work on reset the black cuckoo aquaculture plot and identifying major spot fall areas on the Selangor coast. Additionally, the DOF work with citizens, including children, who will lead the next generation to raise environmental awareness. It is hoped that the spread of these activities will help to maintain a sustainable coastal environment and the stabilization of the blood cuckoo aquaculture. Thank you for your attention. That's all.
Thank you very much, Dr. YURIMOTO. Now we will move to the next presentation. The next speaker is Dr. Shinsuke MORIOKA, Professor of the University of Human Environment, Japan. Dr. MORIOKA will talk on management, production, and utilization of small indigenous species, or Zako, for nutritional improvement in rural areas and biodiversity conservation in inland Southeast Asia. Dr. MORIOKA, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. My name is Shinsuke MORIOKA, coming from University of Human Environment. I used to be working with JIRCAS colleagues here until the end of last March, and in April I moved to this university. So today's topics of my presentation will be management, production, and utilization of small indigenous species, so-called Zako in Japanese, for nutritional improvement in rural areas and biodiversity conservation in inland Southeast Asia. So for explaining the several case studies, I would like to speak a bit about the background of this research activity as a nutritional problem in Southeast Asia. Like, for example, these three countries, Laos, Cambodia, and Myanmar, there are the high rate of stunting in children younger than 5 years were very much discerned, very much remarkable. And also, when looking at women's anemia with reproductive ages from 15 to 49 years old, also in the three countries, Laos, Myanmar, and Cambodia, we can see the very high rate of anemia rate in women. So we do think that, again, I repeat that high stunting rate in children and a high prevalence of anemia among women of reproductive age in inland rural areas in Laos, Cambodia, and Myanmar. So we do think that these are caused by deficiencies in the intakes of minerals and vitamins, as well as animal protein. So with this background, we are focusing on the small indigenous species. Now I would like to speak a bit about nutritional potential of small indigenous species, shortly saying SIFs. So in case of this kind of small these kind of sieves, we can apply the different ways of eating between sieves and LFFs, large fishes. Like, for example, when eating large fishes, we eat mainly fillet, and head, bones, and other parts are are thrown away, leading to the loss of minerals, calcium, iron, magnesium, phosphorus, whatever, and vitamins. On the other hand, when eating small fish as a whole, we usually eat these small fish whole body. In this case, the loss of minerals and vitamins are avoided, and we can use efficiently the minerals and the vitamins from these kind of small fishes. So in this the way of eating, and also the potential of nutritional contents in small fishes are presented here. The first, nutritional potential as mineral contents. I don't touch the detailed species, but these fish species circled by red line are all small cyprinid. They have higher contents of minerals, for example, calcium and ions. They are all small cyprinids, meaning that the small cyprinids can be the high mineral holders. That's what we can evaluate it. And when looking at vitamin A, the large fishes identified the blue letters have only low level of vitamin A. These fishes are usually commercially aquacultured. But when looking at the small indigenous fishes, have higher contents of vitamin A. And when looking at species by species, most of these small species are also cyprinids. So our primary target is, the fish species useful as a source of vitamins and minerals are the cyprinids. Anyway, in general, the small indigenous fishes can be the very good food material, having high contents of vitamins and minerals. So now I would like to show some advantageous aspect, but still some constraints remain unsolved here for the promotion of utilization of small indigenous fishes. The first advantageous aspect is the easy access and capture for small scale, even for small scale farmers. These small fishes are distributed in rice paddy area in the canal and even in very small water masses. So for the individual or small-scale farmers can easily access and catch them. And also there are very much diverse species all over the country and area, even in covering the floodplain area, and also in mountainous area we can find very diverse species varieties. And as well as shown the previous slides, they are the fishes containing high and rich contents of vitamins and minerals. But still, there are some very serious constraints to be unsolved as of now. Is very much scarce information on biology relevant to aquaculture technical development, and also limited examples of artificial seed production. As well, difficulties in maintaining freshness for these small indigenous species. Not almost all, but some part of exploited small fishes are, in many times, they are thrown away without being used for anything. So it is also very much serious problem as harvest loss problem for small indigenous species. So to try to solve these constraints, we have already made some case studies, and these case studies will be presented a little bit. The first, the past achievement made in Laos that is relevant to ecological and biological aspect of the species, good for resource management of the small indigenous species. This is a case of small crupaid species. The scientific name is Crupecutis isolensis. This species is very important and eaten in dried form or in fermented form. But now, in recent days, the resource of this species has been overexploited, and the biological information was necessary, and we made this research. And also, the right side is the small goblet species, very small goblet species, Black Gobis mecogensis. Also, the biology and the growth model has been formulated in this species. These information are contributory to seasonal growth evaluation and reproduction and lifespans of these species, and all the information are contributory to stock management and monitoring. And next case is the community fish refuge example that was been made by mainly in Cambodia by World Fish Center. The community fish refuge was allocated in the center of, for example, in the center of rice paddy area, and surrounding area is good for fishing for the small-scale farmers and fishers, but community fish refuge is no fishing zone. So community fish refuge is as a center of fish supply to fishing zones, and that can make the stabilization and enhancement of fish production in a surrounding area, and realize the creation of income generation for the farmer inhabiting around, and also good for improvement in nutrition status of the habitat of the people around there. This is very good example. This is very good ongoing example in Cambodia. Another issue, another example is evaluation of genetic diversities. We made the genetic diversities. We made analysis of genetic diversity of these two different species, Esomos cyprinid and Paraambasis and Paraambasis ambassador. These two species are distributed widely in floodplain area, also in mountainous area. And when analyzing the genetic diversity of these two species, for the entire species, genetic diversity were rich, but in remote population, like for example in a mountainous area, the genetic diversity was much less than the one observed in the floodplain, floodplain area. So this kind of the genetic diversity and heterozygosity of each population also can contribute to improve the situation of stock enhancement and management. And this is the, I think, the last example. This is the seed production and the integrated aquaculture example for small indigenous fishes. Left one is a seed production example of Trichopodas Trichopteris, ospronemid species, and right side is climbing perch, Anabas testudinus aquaculture, integrated aquaculture example in rice paddy, integrated aquaculture by small-scale farmers. The seed production techniques for this species has been completely succeeded, and also climbing perch aquaculture in rice paddy has been evaluated as feasible. That's what we made. So even for the carnivore species at climbing perch, rice paddy, low input aquaculture was feasible. So this is the last case, that is the feed application of insect larvae. As we know very much that now the feed cost for aquaculture is one of the highest costs, and because of the international fish meal price, that became higher and higher year by year. For substituting that fish meal cost by something, we selected the insect larvae. Now the insect we chose was the black soldier fly. When we use the three different types of feed, T1 containing only fish meal, and T2 and T3 containing black soldier fly meal in different levels. So we compared the growth. Growth was the same under these three different feeds, but the protein efficiency ratio and the protein retention of the fishes fed on diet T2 and T3 containing black soldier fly meal was better than the fish fed on feed T1 containing only fish meal. It means that it was the better protein assimilation observed in black soldier fly meal than in fish meal. So this is one of the very good solutions to reduce the feed cost even in small-scale farmers, like for example in Laos or Cambodia or whatever area in Southeast Asian inland area. So this is the last slide. So we have made some case studies to solve the constraints still remain unsolved, but still the potential health risk is remaining, and also the poverty people are still remaining. To even bit to reduce these risks and poverty population, we have to prepare as early as possible the technical package to realize local regional food security and also reduction of health risks, and also local regional economic growth. These are the goals what we have to going to. The promotion of small indigenous fish utilization can be a very strong tool, but to realize this goal, we still have the subject as the development of culture technique for target SIFs, and also resource management to target SIS, and finally, the proper technique for processing. Like, for example, maintenance of essential nutrients of the product, and also value addition, because usually the small fishes value in the market are much, much lower than bigger fishes. So we have to make some any kinds of method what can add the value for the good price in the market of the small indigenous species. So this is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Morioka. Great to learn from you about the great potential of Zako. So now I would like to introduce the last speaker in this session, Dr. John Altamirano, Head of Farming System and Aquatic Ecology Section in Research Division of SEAFDEC AQD. The title of his presentation is Improving Artisanal Fisheries through Community-Based Shrimp Stock Enhancement in a Mangrove Estuary. Dr. Altamirano, you have the floor.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So my name is John Altamirano from the Southeast Asian Fisheries Development Center in the Philippines. I'll be presenting a long-term project we had some 15, 20 years ago on the improving artisanal fisheries through community-based shrimp or prawn stock enhancement in a mangrove estuary. So a short background of this study, it actually started way back in 1993, patterned from Kuruma ebi in Hamana Lake. And some of my early professors visited the Philippines and saw the similarity of Hamana Lake, although in a smaller scale in the Philippines. So we went ahead and explored the potential of doing stock enhancement. And additional projects came in 2012 to 2016 by Research Institute for Humanity and Nature in partnering with us to continue this project. So the area is in central Philippines, called the New Washington Estuary as one of its name. And in that area, shrimp fisheries was considered to be the most important livelihood. So in this slide, you will see on the left side, you have the black tiger shrimp, as the main target species where everyone wanted to catch. And below that is the greasy back shrimp, what they call in English, which is a very, very cheap, low-cost shrimp. So the question is, why are we interested in tiger shrimp? It's because historically, in 1970s, the black tiger shrimp was the dominant species in that area, and it's being caught at more than about 80% of the catch, as you see in red there in 1978. But something happened that in 1990 up to the present, the scenario changed. Now, most of the catch is the cheaper shrimp species and almost nothing of the tiger shrimp anymore. So there's a huge decline for every year and every decade since the 70s. So we explored possible causes. One of the potential causes is the rampant increase in fishing effort in terms of fishing gear proliferation in the area, an indication that probably regulations are not being implemented very well, or there is really that strong will to really harvest more and more in the area. Also in 1991, you have some 400 plus or so fishing gears, which has increased to about 2,000, 2,700. And some of those are not registered and regulated. Another cause of possible decline is the changes in the nursery conditions. In 1953, you see there in blue where it's almost all mangrove, which has been slowly converted into aquaculture ponds in the 80s in the south, and at about 2008, almost everything there was being converted to fish ponds. So essentially the nursery grounds of the tiger shrimp, black tiger shrimp, has disappeared, essentially. So the project objectives are primarily to immediately increase fishers' income, if that is possible, and reduce the number of fishing gears. As you see, it's really a lot. And also a long-term objective of promoting mangrove rehabilitation, trying to emphasize the awareness of nursery function of the mangroves, which has disappeared. So we've had a big cycle in terms of a method, coming in with preparations, more especially social preparations, back in 2012, doing different scientific studies on the production and culture, release and monitoring. And importantly, we have some feedback mechanisms with the community and the partners, including government, for us to tweak a little, to adjust the methodologies that we will do in the future. So just showing you some pictures here of mostly engaging the community, because it is very important to engage them and make them understand why we're doing this and why and who it is for. Important in the methods, I would like to emphasize the site and species specific studies. So that means that all the methodologies that must be done in the area are appropriate for that particular species only and for that particular site as well. Because we know that applying different established technologies may not be that successful at different sites. No? So these are the following questions that we really ask. Where are the source of the stocks? And we did experiments on that. Where is the location of the intermediate culture? Or where do we grow the small shrimps before we release them? And at what age or at what size is the proper level before we release them? How many to release and when to release? So these are the very site-specific questions that we were able to answer throughout this experiment. So upon deciding where the location of that intermediate culture it was, again, very importantly, we engage the community so that they will have a sense of ownership that this project is theirs. So from planning, construction, and operating, they're all involved, especially in the monitoring, because we engaged fishermen themselves. We use their fishing gear, and they record the catch by themselves. So some of the baseline results we have, based from one gear, this is the composition of their daily catch in terms of shrimps. Just emphasize there that there's a different prices for different sizes, but they also catch bigger size, but very, very small amounts. But they catch bigger amounts of the smaller size. So anyway, the bottom line there is every day from one gear, they take home about 700 grams of shrimps, mostly small size, at a total cost of about 34 pesos. So we used that daily catch of 34 pesos to create a profile. Now, the present status then at 2013, the target poverty line in terms of income for a family should be 235 per day. So I've shown earlier that they only catch 34 pesos from one gear, so the tendency is that the fisherman would make more gears. So for example, on average, they have 5 gears there. So 5 gears earning 34 pesos each would earn them 170 pesos, still below the poverty line. So this fisherman has to engage in some other livelihoods just to meet up the daily demand. So we hypothesized then, before we started the experiment, if we release black tiger shrimps and it can be recovered at about 4%, if they catch it 2 months after we release, they would be probably able to catch 60 individuals of tiger shrimp, and it can be sold at that 150 pesos per kilogram, anyway, earning them 135 pesos potentially. But if they wait a little bit and wait for 3 months, they would be getting bigger shrimps. So if they capture even just a smaller proportion, 15 individuals, they would still get about 135 pesos. And just to put there to note that in Japan, the shrimp releases and recovery was only about 5%. So comparing that with the present scenario, if they are able to catch 135 pesos per day, that's a huge increase in terms of income already. And if they practice moderation, they may be able to reduce the number of gears from 5 to only 2 and still get more than the poverty line in that case. So this is our hypothesis. So we went on ahead and conducted release and monitoring activities. And I would just like to highlight the latest one that we have in 2015, where we were able to release 250,000 shrimps. And every batches, we use different color tags so that the fisherman would know this is the release or is this wild. So one of the highlighted results that we have is that actual recovery of the shrimps, larger this time, was about 20 pieces, or roughly estimated at about 8% recovery from the total number. Okay, and 3% of this are actually much bigger. So we have estimated that there can be about 220,000 pesos earnings from this activity alone. So again, we were surprised that the actual recovery that we have is actually way above than our expected target at 8%. And just to highlight some of the results here, I showed this so that you would be able to read it through the proceedings. But this indicates the success of actual releasing, direct impact on catch, and even unintended releases will have some impact. So just to summarize in terms of averages, the baseline we have in 2013 was about 1 tiger shrimp per day, but increased to 6 in 2014 to 8 in 2015. So now you would see the picture that the fishermen are happily getting larger shrimps and selling at higher cost. And we did some social service as well. This is just one indication that with their perceptions, they said that living conditions, catches of shrimps, and also fish have been increasing for the past 2 years, 2013 and 2015. So that's a good indication that it has some probably indirect effect, but positive effect nonetheless. So in summary, we've shown that the area, New Washington estuary, was overfished and probably misregulated because some of the fishing gears are not registered. And we've shown that stock enhancement can really increase income, both hypothetically and in actual releases. And it can promote reduction of fishing gears. No? And stock enhancement trials increased catch with much higher recovery than we expected, and that the community perceived an increase in positively in their life condition. So in ending, I would like to have this recommendation that in order to promote successful stock enhancement project in the future, partnership with local communities is really important. And these local communities and organizations must have very strong leadership. There should be sufficient social preparation and capacity building, active community participation. In terms of science, there needs to be reliable baseline information and site-specific, species-specific studies. Collaboration both in terms of community and the government, and engage everybody in long-term plans and commitment. And in the future, it needs to have government support for large-scale sustained releases. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Altamirano. So the floor is now open for discussion. And I would like to invite all the audience who would like to ask 1 or 2 short questions to all our 3 speakers. So somebody have the questions, please just raise your hand. Okay, I would like to ask the question to Dr. Altamirano. Thank you for your great presentation. You indicate shrimp size greatly affects unit prices. Of course, I would like to catch first-class shrimp to get rich. So, if so, how it is possible to sustainably increase large-size shrimp per catch? Do you have any idea?
Well, the main factor for making the shrimp bigger is really time. So you need to have more time to allow the shrimp to really grow. So the challenge for us in this system, because in an open system, is really to educate the local fishermen and try for them to really experience selling large versus smaller. So in that way, you would motivate them to wait a little bit longer, or probably change their fishing gears to only catch the bigger ones. And in effect, they would have much larger income and sales. Thank you.
So thank you very much. So another questions? No? Yep.
So you know how you mentioned that if the size increases, you can or encourage fishermen to reduce number of gears. But if they don't reduce the number of gear, obviously they increase the catch as well. And I think that's where the education comes in, I think. But how likely is it to happen rather than them just catching more to have more income?
So indeed, I think it's really human nature to really strive for more. So it's really, even for us experience, it's difficult to tell them to reduce. So if it's not if cannot be done voluntarily, it's where the government comes in and try to really slowly implement that kind of reduction in the area if it's really important. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So because of the time limitation, the more discussion will be continued in the panel session. Before closing this session, I would like to conclude this session. All the speakers of this session agree that research is critical to address empowerment of local community and sustainability of environment. At the same time, as the case studies indicate, local environment varies a lot. Thus, innovation must be tailored to locally specific needs as well. Thank you very much, and give a big hand for all the speakers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to the speakers and chair of the second session. Dr. Kanamori, please return to your seat. Thank you very much. Now please wait for a moment while we prepare for the panel discussion. Thank you.